What was your wittiest comeback that you're still proud of? My mom was asking about my daughter and her boyfriend. Are they going to get married? I'm just not ready to be a great grandmother. Well, you could try being a good one first. This wasn't a comeback, but a witty burn for sure. The bus in high school, a girl, who frequently annoyed me with her loud storytelling, was telling everyone about how she was getting hit on by one of the trash collectors while waiting for the bus. Typically I was the quiet kid who kept to myself, but this time I chimed in with I think he was just trying to do his job. My first gold and silver. Thank you strangers. Working at a pizza shop, troublesome customer tries to stack coupons that clearly state 1 coupon per purchase. After being refused by everyone in the restaurant including the owner, he goes on a tirade saying that the district attorney is his cousin and was threatening a lawsuit, lol. As he was heading for the door, he said you can't afford to mess with me. I shouted after him, you can't afford a large pizza. Father working on the roof. Wind blows the ladder over. Him, well at 3am us 3R, I guess this means I'm counting on you now. Me, don't worry dad, I won't let you down. He nearly fell off the roof laughing so much. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed this. Also tie for my first ever shiny coin. I will cherish it always. 3. Graduated college 2 years ago, and I'm currently working a rather boring desk job to save up money for grad school. My boss has a great doggo that I will periodically walk because I feel bad that it just sits next to me all day without going out much. Anyways, I had some college friends come visit me, some of which I'm not huge fans of, and one girl said, "Hey, how's your job picking up dog?" I think she must have seen my Snapchats or something. I was a little caught off guard by this comment though. We were never super close in college or anything. Luckily, I knew that she still doesn't have a job and is working on her music career. I responded with, good. Speaking of dog, how's your music career going? Still feel good about that one. Her music sucks. Friend, we need to measure out 12 inches. I know we'll use my me, you got 12 of them? Not mine but a friend's. It was a Friday night. Friend from another country, let's call him Sam, had just arrived by car to my friend's place, let's call him Maximum, and we were chatting, waiting for Maximum before unloading the car. He was going to sleep at his place for a few days. Maximum came down and did a Starsky and Hutch move where he slid on the front of the car. No damage was made to the car and everybody was okay with it. But a police car that was passing by stopped and 2 cops came out. They asked us what we were doing and asked for Maximum's ID. We explained that it was Sam's car, that no harm was done. They checked our IDs and everything was okay, but they wouldn't drop it. They wanted to teach a lesson. The conversation went like this. Asterisk cop, even if it's your friend's car you shouldn't do that, even as a joke. I sure you'd be annoyed if someone jumped on your car, right? Asterisk Maximum, I don't have a car. Asterisk cop, well, you wouldn't like it if he'd jump on your PlayStation then, right? Asterisk Maximum, I don't have a PlayStation either. Asterisk cop, okay then what do you have? Asterisk Maximum, a trampoline. Asterisk cop, and I bet you wouldn't like it if he'd jump on your. Just as the cop realized where he had been baited to, he went silent, visibly mad. They got back in their car and left. That was a splendid comeback. Question mark? Getting my license to sell alcohol in a new area. Magistrate had been refusing people all morning and the police officer supporting my application knew this guy refused everybody, so we'd apply another day, but I still had to go up and be questioned. Part of getting a license is that there are people you are not allowed to serve. One of these is known prostitutes. He asks me to list all the people to not serve, concluding my list, and known ladies of the evening. Judge, you mean ladies of the night? Me, I obviously go out a lot earlier than you, Your Honor. My older brother was trying to make fun of me in front of his friends for being really grossed out by sex and anything of that nature in my early teens. He said, check this out, tits, big ass, vagina, trying to gross me. Seeing as he was a big chubby, I said, the only thing you have on that list is tits. Came out of nowhere. Guy walks into my bar with brown robes on. I ask, what's with the robes? You just get out of a Renaissance fair? He replies, no, I'm a Carmelite priest. I exclaim, I'll be damned. He answers, I hope not. He totally got me in front of whole bar. Not me, but a friend of mine. Students, a group of towners, were shouting abuse at us. My buddy shouted abuse back, and one of them said, you're playing a dangerous game. Do you know who my dad is? My friend responded, no, do you? One of the greatest comebacks ever witnessed was from a friend of mine who had blacked out drunk on the sofa at a party and had been basically unconscious for over an hour. Other friend walks in and lets us know that some of the girls we know are coming, who my friend didn't like. He shouts out, hey Chris, your girlfriend will be here soon. He rolls over, eyes still closed, and grumbles out, I didn't know your mum went out this late. Rolls over back to sleep. Edit, bad spelling. When I was in high school, a girl that I had dated for a while and broke up with called me about 3 months afterward. I picked up the phone and said, hello, and she immediately said, I just want you to know that I'm having much better sex now. I replied with, well, tell your dad I said congratulations, and hung up. I have never been that witty since. My then girlfriend and I were arguing over something petty. You're heartless. Only because you stole it. She AWWD and then went back into argue mode. My husband, he's a big fella, said back, quote, don't touch what you can't afford, to me once when I slapped his, but I instantly replied back, quote, not if I'm paying by the pound, pounds. I didn't mean to be nasty, it just plopped out before I could stop it. Late to the game, but at Thanksgiving one year, my whole family was sitting around talking, and winning contests came up. One of my brothers looked at me and snarked, oh yeah, Madathril Genius, what was the last thing you ever won? I looked around the room at all my blood relatives, and answered by the looks of it, the genetic lottery. Edit, thanks so much for my first ever silver. One that I actually said out loud, or just something I thought of a year later in the shower. Playing hockey growing up meant you always had to be on your toes when it came to chirping. I was maybe 17 at the time, and it was November, so everyone was trying to grow the dustiest mustaches they could. Mine was pretty gnarly, patchy and inconsistent. I line up next to another forward on a face-off, and he looks at me and says, you should wipe those pubes off your face, in reference to my stash, which was a well-deserved chirp, no doubt. But yeah, our boy here had been practicing your mom jokes, as teens do, so I hit him back with the it's not my fault your mom doesn't shave her pussy. Not really an insult, but a buddy of mine burned his forehead on an engine and someone asked him what happened. I told them my belt buckle was really hot. At a party, my cousin was once boasting how much his new girlfriend changed him. She is so great. Because of her I learned so many new words. Me, like water and soap. I, male, was about to cross a road with a few friends, all female. A car passed by with a bunch of dudes, windows down. They were catcalling my friends, whistling and shouting hey sexy, and such. I was shouting back, oh thank you. The girls burst in laughter and the guys looked confused, didn't have a comeback themselves, and just drove off. Not extremely witty, but I loved that moment. I had just turned 7 the day before, and I was in the car with my mom and brother after school. My brother and mom were arguing over something, and my mom said, I wasn't born yesterday, to my brother. I replied saying, I was. It was a good day. Random teacher, what would you do if you were as pretty as me? Me, get plastic surgery. I was arguing with an Air Force colonel who thought I answered to him. I told him legally he had no authority over me. He said I was being insubordinate. I replied, I can't be insubordinate if I'm not your subordinate. I used to work as a carpenter's assistant. For some reason, I bought myself a 22-ounce framing hammer, which is, be honest, more hammer than you'll ever need. One guy I worked with was teasing me about it. A real carpenter doesn't need more than a 16-ouncer. I replied, you've been listening to your wife too much. Huh. She's been telling you size doesn't matter, right? Not me who delivered. Friends out between bars, bit tipsy, we stopped to talk to her acquaintance, girl. My friend gets closer to her and sniffs. You smell like men. Without missing a beat, she replies. I'm lucky I didn't get close to you, or I'd smell like a pussy. This happened more than 10 years ago, and we still remember it from time to time. I'm big guy, 6 feet 6 inches 270 I shall BS, and this happened about 2 years ago. I was grocery shopping with my wife, and went looking for something that was on the list. I don't remember what. I was heading up one of the aisles, when I crossed paths with a shorter dude that was obviously on some type of upper. He was bouncing all over the place looking for something. He noticed me as I passed him, and he stops and says, wow, you're a big fella. I reply, yes I am. I constantly get this remark. As I'm continuing by him he states, I could take you though. He stopped and put a surprised look on my face and exclaimed, really? All 12 inches? His face went red. You. I smiled at him and said, that's the spirit. He mumbled something and walked away. That was probably my best comeback ever. Back in the day I had to deal with one of those ridiculous douchebags that thought it was a hilarious burn to call somebody gay. He found out that I did quite well academically at school and said that makes sense, most gay guys are smart. To which I responded, if that's the case, you must be the straightest guy I've ever met. I'm an engineering freshman this year. My brother, who's a sophomore, changed majors from engineering to flight this semester after failing a course or two. When we were home for spring break we were casually teasing each other and he just says you're dumb. Lol, got him. I put on a fake pout and said dang you're right, guess I'm gonna have to be a pilot now. After screwing up at work. Colleague, I'm not sure if it's because you're dyslexic or stupid. Me, I like to think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column 2. Not mine, but my friend called me and I responded I do have a and he came back with well spit it out it's not yours. I'm still in shock from how great that comeback was. My wife asked if I'd ever accept a blowjob from another woman. I replied, only if you're holding her hair back, love? Question mark? Edit, a word. Not me but a friend of mine. He was at a music festival in my city. It attracted a pretty big gay crowd. So everyone is drinking and having a good time. And a middle-aged woman who shoves into my friend which makes him basically upend his pint all over himself. He isn't best pleased. The middle-aged woman decides to pick a fight for some reason and starts to get a bit physical. My friend looks her dead in the eye and without missing a beat says I deck you, but some whales are protected, so guess I can't. Started crying and left. Was eating alone in the cafeteria one day in high school and this comes by and says, sitting with all your friends? I replied, nah, sitting with all yours. He was deflated. Edit, thanks for the gold kind stranger. I think it's my first. I was the dealer on a roulette table. Customer, what do I get if the bull lands in a number besides the one I bet on? Me, my condolences. Not exactly a comeback, but my coworker was complaining about her teenage son's behavior, how she was doing everything she could, and how his therapist wasn't doing anything that seemed to help. Exasperated, she exclaimed, do you medicate an asshole? With a suppository. I replied. My older sister is very upset that I'm taller than her. Only by a few inches but it still angers her. One day, She was being especially annoying, so. Me, remember, I'm still taller than you. Sister, yeah, but my tits are bigger. Me, even if you put your tits on your head, I'd still be taller than you. She got so red-faced until my dad started laughing. She still brings it up to this day. Happened when I was 11/12 and used to swim a lot. Mom, you know, we'd save us so much money if you guys stopped drinking so much milk. Me, we'd save more if you stopped smoking. This one guy was hitting on me in middle school. He asked if I wanted to go on a date with him. I told him no. He said I won't take no for an answer. I said, well, you should, because you'll be hearing it a lot. Someone says go yourself. Reply with me yourself, you coward. No, you. I was visiting from out of state my old lab at uni, at which the girlfriend of an ex-friend happened to be waiting in line to enter. This chicker asterisk HATED asterisk me. He comes up, tiny fists in balls of rage, and demands to know why I'm there. I knew exactly who she was. I look at her up and down, and meet her glare with a bored look, and ask. Asterisk AND who exactly are you? Asterisk. Her jaw drop, and sputtering will forever make all that drama BS worth it. This guy, almost 30 years old in the bar, was talking about his saying I had biggest penis in 8th grade. I immediately said you probably still do. At a previous job, I always sit nearest the door, every job, somehow, no idea why. We share a building with a visa company. They were in the room next door to us, but recently moved offices to a different floor. I'm sitting working, nothing important. I hear sounds to my right. There's this gorgeous lady there leaning against the door frame. I'm looking for someone, she says breathlessly in this strong Eastern European accent. About the most come hither voice I've ever heard outside of a movie. Without even thinking, I quip, you've found someone. Today the elevator is out, it's 3 floors up. I assume the stairs were murder. I directed her to the visa company she was looking for, ground floor. Nobody I worked with in that company has ever let me forget the smoothest line I will ever give. Me, my dad, and my brother were talking. My dad tells us that women could bend their back in a way that their face is in their crotch, dudes can't. My brother proceeds to prove him wrong by bending over himself. Which I reply, is that why your breath stinks? Not me, but a friend. She was in an argument with some kid about some nerd, as she called it, and at one point he said your mom's gay as a cheap shot, and she responds. Actually both of them are. I guess that's why your mom likes them so much. Turns out she actually had 2 moms and she basically ended the argument there. At first, she didn't realize that she had made a comeback and she was just stating facts. A lot of people have this weird desire to be friends with gay people. Not the greatest, but I was proud of myself for how quick I was. My sister was cleaning out her room the other week and basically left bags of old clothes and garbage in the living room in the process. So of course her room was now spotless, but the rest of the house was a disaster. When I told her she was messy as all hell, she argued, messy? Have you seen my room? I answered, how couldn't I? It's all over the house. My nephew is a good-sized kid. On our back porch we have a bungee chair. He sat in it and said with surprise, oh, I didn't think it would sink that low. I said, normally it doesn't. I posted listen to Miles Davis and painted my garage. It was intense. Friends Witty reply, did listen to Miles, he knows nothing about painting garages. Then, the perfect setup, another friend asked what color I painted it. A kind of blue. I know this sounds pretentious as but I'm a working class schmuck in rural Michigan, so cut me some slack. A guy was making fun of a very loudly printed shirt I wore in my late teens, this full-on cowboy mural abomination. I told him it was perfect for him because it had lots of pictures and no words. Once, when I was 7, and, admittedly, often obnoxiously precocious, my grandparents had been showing off my vocabulary and spelling skills to various aunts, uncles, and cousins. One of my uncles, known joker and all-around funny guy, thought he'd get one up on me. "Can you say antidesis, antidesestab, antidis?" He tried for a good while to ask me if I could say anti-establishmentarianism, hoping to stump me. Little me calmly watched him fumble this word for a good dozen or so tries before interrupting him with, "And you?" 25 years later, my family still bring up the one time our smartass, practical joker uncle was thrown for a loop by a first grader. Whole class was talking in economics class with a substitute teacher who decided that she didn't want us enjoying our lives in her abysmal presence. So she said that we were to work quietly and may only talk if we were discussing the work at hand. We were all year 12s, final year of high school where I'm from, so this was super unnecessary. At the time, we were studying the impacts of unemployment on an economy on a micro and macro scale. Question mark? Anyway, everyone slowly picked up the conversations again, but quiet at first. The table I was at with my mates were listening to one of the guys talk about how he went to visit his brand new niece who had only just been born. We were all joking around about something to do with the conversation, can't remember now. The teacher noticed we were getting a bit louder than the rest of the room, so she called us out. "Table in the middle, that doesn't sound like you are talking about economics." I immediately replied with, "Yes we are, miss. His niece is unemployed." Question mark? I didn't think it was that funny, but the class all laughed, and one of the guys in the class I've known since childhood, but wasn't close with, came up to me after class and said, "Grazai, you've always been a pretty funny guy, but that was so quick and absolutely hilarious." That compliment still means so much to me, as I have always wanted to be the funny guy, but don't feel I usually am. And it meant a lot to have someone outside of my small friend group provide any sort of validation during a relatively lonely period of my life. I was at a John Oliver stand-up show, and he told a story about how one time before a show, a fan came up to him and gave him an entire bicycle. I don't remember much more than that, but the whole bit was essentially how crazy and memorable and weird it was to be presented with an entire cycle by a stranger. Sometime after this, I really had to go to the bathroom. I was sitting in the front row and didn't want to draw attention to myself or miss anything, but I couldn't wait, so I got up and started walking down the aisle towards the back. As I feared, Oliver noticed and called me out, "Oh you. Where do you think you're going?" Without missing a beat I turned around and said, "Oh, to get your bike." Everyone laughed. He laughed. I got to pee. It's a good memory. I was walking down the street one evening and passed by a restaurant and noticed two policemen were removing paintings from inside the restaurant and loading them into the back of a paddy wagon. I have no idea why. I went up to one of the policemen and said, "Officer, shouldn't arrest that painting. It was framed." The cop chuckled. My friend was boasting about how great it was, that he wasn't going to college and blah blah blah. I can't remember what he said specifically, but at one point he says, "Ask me in years," and I said, "I will, and when I do I'll ask for fries as well." My friends were howling. Fast forward 5 to 6 years, he makes more money, so at least in the short term, he wasn't wrong. When I finish my BSN, cause nurses need an education, I can finally escape squalor lol. We were fake arguing for fun, and he said, "Shut up, or I'll you in the eye," and I said, "Then I'll finally see where you're coming from." I called my friend at 2 in the afternoon and he answered very groggily. So I say, "Hey man, were you sleeping?" He goes, "Yes and no." Confused I reply, "Were you taking a Scrodinger's cat nap?" I got nothing from him for that line. Wasted. I was always super quiet growing up and got teased a lot. There's a kid who always get on the bus and ask me what time he should pick me up for our date and snicker with his friend. I'm not even sure where I heard it or why I said it, but one day I decided to reply instead of ignoring it. I told him 5 o'clock. You bring the handcuffs. I have the whip. Dead. Silence. The kid never said another word to me, even years later, when I took my driving test, and he was there too. I wished him luck and he wouldn't talk to me. I can only imagine how shocked he was, because like I said, I was super quiet normally, and an easy target. I was once accused of being an American imperialist by a British gentleman, and without missing a beat I replied with "We learned from the best." One of my old bosses, whom I loved working for, was snarky and sarcastic with myself and the other employees. We loved it, it lightened the mood, and there were some nasty burns in there. He also happened to be gay. One day he was complaining about some sample he tried at Whole Foods, which I vaguely remember as being kale water or some other such nonsense. It's Whole Foods, I'm sure you can imagine. His comment was, "God, it was awful. It tasted like arsehole that was covered in lawn clippings." I popped my head around the corner and said, "Well, Tim, as the only gay guy and vegetarian here, you're the most qualified to make that statement." He just kinda stared at me and sputtered for a bit. I no longer work for him, but even now we'll laugh about it. Years ago my so had dropped several hints that she wanted me to make breakfast one weekend. I didn't pick up on the hints. So she gets up on a Saturday morning and is clearly pissed off. She's making lots of noise, sighing a lot, closing doors really hurt. At some point I was just like, oh my god, it is 100% obvious that you're pissed off, so just tell me what's up. She storms into the room and says, "How about breakfast? How about some fresh orange juice and maybe some freshly baked bread or rolls from the bakery? How about an omelette or some scrambled eggs?" I looked up and said, "That sounds delicious. Thanks so much." I was at a pub with some of my friends when a waitress brought us a bunch of tap water that we hadn't ordered. She says they're from that table and points to a table with a bunch of guys that eventually all came pooling over. They notice right away that my friends are Persian and start talking about their backgrounds, and this one guy who was talking the most says that he's Dutch. Without thinking I said that explains the waters, and everyone did a bunch of oohs and jumping all over each other laughing as I quickly wave that it was a joke. I grew up in a very Dutch influenced community and have plenty of Dutch friends who are always joking about their parents' thriftiness, so some may not get the joke. On a side note, they said that they were trying to be creative, that girls always get drinks bought for them, so they wanted to stand out. It was cute, and we all had a good laugh. Back in first year of high school, some older guy blocks me and says, "You can't pass him a wall." I replied, "Well, I'm a door," and just passed beside him. Not sure how I was able to keep my cool given how bigger he was. Manager, what you getting your dad for Father's Day? Me, taking him out for some food. What's your dog getting you? Question mark. As innocent as his question sounded, he usually setting me up to say something he can take the piss out of. Even though I'm pretty much blind, I can still see that you're a shady ass bitch. Show up to super rich grandpa's house in Texas. My mother and father warn me of a friend he has with them at the house named Richard, who likes to introduce himself as and then asks you to refer to him as big troll. Question mark. In a ho, dude answers the door at my grandpa's house and shakes my hand. My grandfather is right behind him and sure enough lays right into the question mark. Him, my name is but you can call me Big. Me, oh, I think I met your brother. Him, very strange look on his face, you met my brother? Me, yeah, he goes by Huge. Huge asshole. Question mark. Grandpa, I knew you were my grandson. I was on holiday in Greece with my fiance, and every night we'd go to the hotel bar and stay until it was fully shut and everyone else had gone. We got on really well with two of the bartenders there, and we'd spend ages just having banter and trying out various cocktails they'd conjured up. We got onto the topic of clubbing, and my fiance said that she always gets eyed no matter what. She looks very young for her age. Some people think she's 13 lol. One of the bartenders started taking the piss out of her and said I could get into clubs when I was 14, and I replied that must have been when you lost your hair then. Writing it down doesn't make it seem that funny, but at the time it was pretty hilarious to the other bartenders and waiters. Not me, but a friend of mine. We were in junior high and this was a kid who was well spoken, made the grades, and was never in trouble about anything. One day this ham harpy started railing on him as he was getting off the bus. She shouted, "Something, you." Without skipping a beat he replies, "I wouldn't be a if you kept your mom in the house." I thought I was going to die. He got in trouble, but framed the referral slip because the principal had to quote what he said. Back when that stupid rap battle show was on MTV, I decided to come up with a rap battle comeback line, just in case. A few weeks later I was working as a lifeguard and we were throwing this 15-16-year-old kid out of the park. It was pretty common for parents to use the pool as daycare, so we called his mom to pick him up. While we were waiting he was cursing at us and threatening us. While the other lifeguards sarcastically asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. He said a rapper. So naturally I challenged him to a rap battle. He went first and spit some nonsense line about me being white. I replied, "Damn, your rhymes are sick." And by sick I mean ill. And by ill I mean your mother should have been on the pill. Then I walked away as he cussed me out. Idiot friend, you can't celebrate Christmas if you're not a Christian, bro. Me, you can't celebrate Valentine's Day if nobody loves you either, buddy. Bitch pulled into the employee parking lot of the post office I worked at because she couldn't make it there during business hours and had super important things to mail. First, she was absolutely not allowed in that parking lot. Second, she was so important that she didn't use a parking space. She just parked directly behind my car, which I was sitting in, with reverse lights already on. Third, I honked my horn, a friendly honk, and this bitch put up a finger at me like, just a secretary. No. She thought she had blocked me in, but bitch I drive for a living. I got this. So I got around her car, but in the process she had come back out and couldn't get to her driver door because of yours truly. In honor of all of my missed opportunities and flubbed comebacks, I said this gem in the moment. "Oh. I'm so sorry you're having to wait for me because your time is clearly more important than mine." Then I rolled my window up cause I'm not listening to her entitlement and took my sweet ass time moving my car to where she could get in hers.